Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another review as I go into the 80s horror films. Trying to get situated there. And I know I reviewed this film before, but it's worth repeating because the film doesn't even have a Blu-ray, which is BS. This is a film that deserves a Blu-ray. And that's Altered States. Now the cover leaves a lot to be desired, but the film itself is directed by Ken Russell and stars William Hurt as Dr. Eddie Jessup, and he's doing these tests on sensory deprivation. And he's in this floating tank, or I should say flotation tank, because Tim knows that there's other states of consciousness as real as our waking one. And he wants to find the truth. What's the truth of how we existed? What's the truth of man? What's the truth of consciousness? We have all these hidden memories and millions of years of evolution hidden in our brain. And he talks about how, well, memory is energy. It doesn't just disappear. As he says in the movie, that original self that is a tangible thing, is incarnate. And I'm going to find the fucker. Thought that was a fun line. And so he's going deep into the sensory deprivation in these flotation tanks. Early on in the film, he meets this lady played by Blair Brown. And they hit it off. And later on they get married and they have 2 kids. And if you spot closely, one of the kids is actually Drew Barrymore. She doesn't really have any lines or anything, but it's like, oh, that Drew Barrymore, go figure. What makes the film work is I think it's a very interesting idea. It's an interesting story. It's not the typical story. And this is the tank I'm talking about that he's in. So I liked that the story wasn't the typical story. It tried to be outside the norm. Try to have a couple ideas and make you think at least a little bit. It also was a very visually good-looking flick. It had some very weird visions. At one point, he was in sensory deprivation. He has this weird vision of this multiple-eyed beast that's on a cross, and it's hard to me even describe what the hell it is. Anyway, years later, the marriage is on the rocks because William Hurt is so obsessed with this other thing. Like, to him, love and the real world is not that interesting. It's his research that, trying to find that hidden truth that he's more gung-ho about. So he goes over, I think it was Mexico, they said, this indigenous tribe where they have this certain mixture which he takes, and it has these trippy-ass visuals, which again, hard for me to explain. I would say watch the film yourself to have a mind fuckery. But one part that was creepy was during this experience, he sees his wife, and they both turn to dust very, very, very slowly. But this way, it was pretty creepy, because you have both of them sort of lying in position, and then they're dust, but they have a lot of features on their face. And then when it keeps coming back, they have less and less features. Nose is gone, eyes are just nothing, and then there's just becoming more and more just lumps of dust. I don't know why, but the fact that it was getting less and less detail, it just made it a bit creepy. I don't know how to describe it. And then you see like mountain and fire and tons of crosses of people on them. Just this mixture give you some insane hallucinations. So he gets with his co-workers. One is Bob Balaban, who I remember from 2010, the year we made contact with Roy Scheider. The other is a guy named Charles Hayde, which I liked him because he was a bit of the surly, grumpy guy, but at the same time he made sense. He's kind of the more logical of the group. More angry in the group, but more logical in the group, so I liked his character. And William Hurt starts taking the drug during these sensory deprivation taint sessions. And that's where things get more batshit insane. Because the more he does this, the more he starts turning, like he talks about, oh, I'm seeing a proto-human, and he's describing it. But then things go awry. When they open up the taint, there's blood in his mouth. They get x-ray, in which you have a very quick and you blink it appearance by John Larroquette as the x-ray technician. And they see like something in his throat that should not be in there. And you get the idea that because of this, he was starting to regress to a quasi-simian creature. There's even one guy, I'm not sure if it was him, but I think he was the old guy in Police Academy. I could be wrong, but I swear it's him who says, when Charles Hayde shows him, think there may be a somewhat anomaly, and the guy goes, somewhat? This guy's a fucking gorilla. I swear the guy who says that line is the old guy from Police Academy, but don't quote me on that. And now his body's changing. At times his arm is like pulsing. See a little bit there. And I thought the special effects were really good. I mean, especially for 1980. I don't know why I say that, because there's a lot of good effects in 1980. I mean, the 80s were a great decade for effects and revolution of makeup effects. And you see like the bones like look like they're trying to maneuver out of his skin. And before I go on, one thing I gotta take note is I agree with Guide for the Film Fanatic, Danny Peary, dynamic special effects and excellent ensemble acting. The acting is really good too. William Hurt does a really solid job. I think it's one of his best performances. Brian Brown. That's the guy from effects. Blair Brown, she's very likable. You feel sorry for her. Just all she wants is, like, she loves William Hurt so much, but she wants William Hurt to return the love as much as she loves him. And by the end he does, because that's the lesson, that's the character arc that he goes through. Bob Balaban, Charles Hayde, I thought they did a solid job. But yeah, the cast works well in this movie. And this movie's not long. It's only an hour and 40-some minutes. But, I mean, more and more crazy things start happening. There's a point where he's in the deprivation tank and he jumps out and he's an actual simian. Which they must have gotten someone else to play. Well, not much. I guarantee you they got someone else to play him because the person's a lot shorter. And I actually didn't mind the look of the caveman simian thing, and runs off in the city and chased by dogs and kills a sheep. And then, you know, they do this final experiment where things really go up shit creek. And again, this is a mindfuck of a finale where not only is he's not even regressing to simian state anymore, he's regressing to like energy, a primordial matter. And the room that the tank is in, the pipes are bending and rupturing. And then there's like this swirling fog, and you're like, what the hell's going on? And the wife is trying to get her husband, and Eddie. And, you know, trippy as hell visuals that, again, watch the film, because I'm going to even try and she's able to guide him back. And that's what I mean. You get to the end of the film where you're getting to the character arc of William Hurt's character, where at first he was really wanting the truth, and now he's like, I was there and there was nothing. Simple, hideous, nothing. And then he starts regressing to that energy primordial state again. And I thought the actors did their jobs well, because what I like about Blair Brown, you could tell that her character really cares for William Hurt. She's not, ooh, I broke her nail, dead weight. She's a strong female. Because remember, there's been no strong females in the past. At least this is what we're told by SJWs nowadays. I'm like, I can name you at least 50 movies in the 80s that makes that belief bullshit. This is another example of that. With her, she says, if you love me, Eddie, defy it. Defy it. And I know it sounds hammy, but I thought it was pulled off well in the film. And then when she just changed, I like the look of her when she just changed, when she touches William Hurt. She looks like lava. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. It's a very trippy movie, and that's one of the things that appeals to me about this. And because of the visuals, that's why this film deserves a fucking Blu-ray. Warner Brothers? You wishy-washy butt cheeks? Is that what WB is for? Wanking butt cheeks? Or butt wipes? Or butt cracks? Or whatever the hell? Get the fucking film on Blu-ray. But William Hurt, he does fight it because he sees his wife being hurt. He fights it, he's slamming along the wall, fighting it, becomes human, hugs his wife. They did, almost was like reborn. And finally he says, I love you. That was the one thing throughout the film that he never said, but he finally, and that's the character arc of the character, he finally is able to say, I love you. I realized this is the thing that's most important. It's one thing to say it, it's another character finally realizes it. So I thought it was like a touching story of a, well, in a way, touching. A guy finding that it's not about science at the end of the day, it is about love. I guess in a way you would say love conquers all ending, which people say is silly and cheesy, but to me, I'm a sucker for that. I'm a sucker for that. I like that. I did. It's a nice character arc for William Hurt, where after that final experiment, and then more so with this last event, him and her not only bond back together again, but more than likely stronger because of this. So, I mean, interesting idea and interesting concepts. A story that I would say is fairly original. I can't think of another movie that's has the plot of Altered States. I'm surprised they haven't tried to remake it, to be honest. I thought the effects were cool. I thought the visuals were very trippy and interesting and acid trip and a half. I thought the cast did a very solid job. I don't really have many problems with the film. I really don't. I think this is an underrated film. There's no features on this except... This is 5 trailers and 2 DV spots. I don't even remember seeing those. Five trailers. Must be for other movies. Must be one of those like... Also in our catalog we have this movie, but I don't even remember that. I mean, it'd be nice to hear, you know... This deserves like a Blu-ray from Stream Factory or... Well, Blu-ray companies are out there. Vinegar Syndrome or Arrow Video or... any number of things. You know, it'd be nice to hear William Hurt's thoughts on the film. Director, the effects guys. See remaster in HD. If you're wondering what this says, in the basement of a medical school, Dr. Jessup floats in total darkness. The most terrifying experiment in the history of science is out of control, and the subject is himself. The Altered States, very solid film. Can't say anything else. Thanks for watching. Take care. Stay tuned for another 80s horror film review later.